What's up, everybody? Noah Kisser back here for an interview with Max McGuire. He just had a couple films debut, and he has one film coming out very, very soon with Tia Mowry called Yes Chef Christmas. He just had one on Hallmark Channel called My Christmas Guide, which I really enjoyed with the lovely and beautiful, talented Amber Marshall. How are you doing today, Max? And can you tell us a little bit about My Christmas Guide?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you for having me, Noah. My Christmas Guide, that was a very interesting and fun movie to make out in Newfoundland, weathering the 100-kilometer-an-hour winds where we couldn't fly gear. We had a seeing eye dog, an awesome visually impaired actor, Ben, who nailed the role. And then, of course, as you said, the lovely Amber Marshall, who has hearties all over the world that are rooting for her. And she warned me, her fans are very proactive, and they certainly are. They found me on Instagram and started talking to me, asking me details about the movie long before it was ready to come out.
I do know that the Heartland fans are really, really passionate, and they love her to death.
They do.
So,
Very protective of her.
well,
And their
as
storylines, one of their main questions was, why isn't her co-star from Heartland the co-star of the movie? And, obviously they understood it was a different movie and a different story, and they grew to love Ben. And many, hundreds, I would say, messaged me or messaged the boards, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, about the movie, giving it their seal of approval. And I think they're the reason it drove our viewership over 1 million. To talk about the story, it's about a teacher, a university professor who is lost his sight, and he's coping with that. And then his daughter thinks he might need a seeing eye dog. And then Amber plays the trainer. And as she trains him with a dog, perhaps a little romance ensues, and she realizes what she has in front of her with her not so responsive boyfriend might not be as good as what is out there. As she says, sometimes you don't see what's right in front of you.
I have to say, that boyfriend was a character where on the Hallmark Channel, we don't get many characters like him.
He danced on the line of caricature, whereas we wanted, and he agreed, we wanted to keep it believable, but in the sphere of just being so into what he was doing and letting a good thing go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we landed on. And I think it's also fun to lean into the laugh every once in a while, especially in a very serious movie.
We just had one on the Hallmark Channel that had a similar story, but this one was more focused on him and the dog. We just had one called Guiding Emily with Sarah
Yes.
Drew. And I was afraid that this film was going to be too similar in a way. But I watched this knowing Amber, loving her to death for many, many years. And if I believe, this is her Hallmark movie debut, I believe.
I thought she did one other one a few years back, but maybe I'm wrong. But either way, it's definitely underutilized actress on Hallmark.
Mm-hmm.
She's a country girl for real. We had trouble getting a hold of her when we were trying to hire her. She was out on the range, working the horses, working the fields, and she would take, unlike this business where you're used to responses within hours, it would take days to hear back. Turns out she was just out in the range and didn't have any cell phone or internet.
So how is she in real life? Is she as down to earth as she plays in all of her films and shows, or is she a different person?
No, as down to earth. We grab coffee, we shoot the shit, we talk shop, we talk about family, we talk about our animals. She's worked with a lot of animals, so she was very good with the dog, which is great, because Oliver wasn't really a movie dog to begin with, unlike the animals you normally see on series, or sometimes you have 2 or 3 so you don't tire them out. Oliver really needed some help learning, like, wait a minute, it's not just to sit down and get a treat. I got to do this over and over again. And his trainer was very kind, and Amber was very good at sharing what worked with her on her series with the horses and the dogs.
What was it with this film that really, should I say, attracted you to this story in particular? And how did you get a hold of all these great actors? And was Amber your first choice, or did you have a say?
Amber was the first and only choice that we had to go to. Often we get a list of actors that are approved by the network or our financier, and she was top of the list. And as I said, it was just a minute to track her down. But once we locked her in, and as for Ben, I wanted to make sure we absolutely explored every visually impaired actor we could get our hands on. Turns out there aren't a whole lot of them. And then within the pile, there's not as many that are in our age category and then who have network experience. And luckily, we landed on Ben, and I was of the opinion that I wasn't going to do the movie unless it was a visually impaired actor.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike in Guiding Emily, where it's about an actor, a character who loses their sight, this character had already lost their sight. And I didn't, so it was a different journey, whereas Sarah Drew could pull that off because she went from seeing to not seeing.
Yes.
Whereas we were hopping in the story with somebody who was already visually impaired. And I thought it was imperative, A, for representation, B, for just, opportunity and everything else. And then, of course, having an experienced actor like Ben, who was on the series You and played a visually impaired actor, and he is legally blind as well. I thought we were lucky to land him and her, and then the rest of the cast we found through audition. It's hard getting actors out to Newfoundland. In fact, some actors had landed some roles with us who were willing to fly in from Toronto, but the weather turned them around and we had to go to a local option who, thank God for them existing, they pinged in last minute, learned the scene the day of, and then played it.
So how did you come to getting Ava? She played Annie so well, where I don't know if I could see anybody else playing that character now. After seeing this film,
I didn't answer the first part of your question. I'll get to that. But Ava's awesome. I've worked with her before on Lemonade Stand Romance. I think I worked with her another time. It's our second or third time together. And she's just one of those awesome kid actors that can not only hit her mark on Sarah Line, but add a little sass, which is fun when you have a child that has some sass. And Ava and her mom and her dad are awesome team players that they traveled to Newfoundland to do the movie. Once I knew I had a role in that range, I let them know and they read and landed. As for how the movie came across my plate, which I didn't ask for before, I work with an executive producer, Johnson Production Group. And last year I did a movie by the same writer, Keith Hemstreet, which was Noel Next Door with Natalie Hall.
yes.
And so he told me he had another script from the same writer. The truth is, it was just a concept. We didn't have the script read and written until the Friday night before we started working on the script on the Monday. Not filming, but like officially preparing, location hunting, casting. So I took the job just based off the relationship with the writer and the producer, and then confident that we would have a script. He was calling me and asking me questions about Newfoundland. Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? I'd say, hey, I don't have that, but we have this, beautiful bay. I don't have that, but we got this park. And we helped navigate the structure within the story he was asked to create with the locations we had. And so it was synergy again, and we're lucky it worked out really well, and the movie had a lot of heart.
Was this film a little bit harder with a dog than your other films?
Yeah, there's a rule in film: no animals, no children. I love them both, but we make these movies in 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Kids can only work 8 hours. You have to plan your schedule with a scene without them on the top of the day and a scene without them at the end of the day, because we do 12-hour days for productivity's sake. Animals, they don't always go exactly where you want, how you want, and the way you want them to get there. There was a scene where he jumps up on the bed to wake him up in the morning. He's supposed to lick his face. We did the food on the face, we did the everything, but the dog just didn't want to jump up, so we had to do it in pieces. Run in the room, show Ben sleeping, go to the bed, put the trainer behind bed, and then the dog jumps up, and then do the side shot of the two of them and him waking up saying, "Good dog, Max." And so what you might have wanted to do in a one-er turns into 3 shots, which might add half an hour of relighting and changing the angle. Mm-hmm. So you just always have to be able to pivot. You plan a little bit extra time for every animal scene, and you get clear communication with the trainer on what you're hoping to get.
This film did so well, and I'm so glad. This is one of the strongest Hallmark films that I've seen this year so far.
Wow. That's a big statement. You're talking to a guy who's friends with Tyler Hines. You're talking to guys friends with Natalie Hall and all these other actors. And, these guys are stalwarts of the network. There's a lot of talk this year because of the strike. There's probably more acquisition films. Hallmark does their own and they acquire some. Mm-hmm. I happen to be on the acquisition side. So we tend to work with lower budgets and faster timelines to make sure to mitigate the risk. And, it was tough to make, but for it to shine through in the end. And I read a ton of the tweets, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages of feedback. no part of me, I recognize a lot of these might be Amber Marshall fans already and who love everything she does. And I love that because, when you're hiring a star, you want them to bring that audience with them. Why make a movie for people who might not enjoy what you're doing? And so as long as the network's happy, the advertisers are happy, then I get to work again. So I'm happy.
So speaking of Tyler Hynes.
Yes. We haven't worked together yet. Oh, no, that's not true. We did do one of my first Lifetime thriller ever. I had him in the role because he happens to be from my hometown where I film. And I lured him home with very low pay compared to the world he travels in. But he got to be the bad guy and drive my 76 Corvette and have a laugh in his hometown.
Mm-hmm. He's an actor. There's not very many guys in the Hallmark verse where they're beloved as him.
Absolutely. He is curated. He's got fans that are as rabid as Amber's fans.
Yeah.
They absolutely buy into what he's doing, what he's selling, and how he does it. And the truth is, it's because he's so earnest and honest. I think people like honesty, not just imagery.
So could you see him on a film with you sooner rather than later?
I had a coffee with him a week or two ago, and we were joking about that. And so I would love to. It's, as much as we're friends, it's also about respecting the business and not undercutting producers, agents, everything else. Neither of us want to risk our career for the other person when really we're both just trying to entertain people. If the stars align, the right script, the right project, the right city, we would love to do it. But neither, we're not going to, break any rules to make it happen.
No. So is there a Hallmark actor you haven't, should I say, met or worked with yet that you love all their films that you would love to make one film with this one actor or actress?
Oh, that's a good question. I watch a lot of these just to see where the market's going and what stories are working, what isn't. Tyler's my guy that I'd like to make one with that I haven't worked with yet. Another guy who I had slated for a movie, a thriller, was Andrew Walker. I knew Andrew from LA from 10 years ago. And he made a name for himself in Hallmark, and we haven't been able to line up yet. When you get that big, like Tyler and Andrew, you kind of get to pick where you work and with who you work with. And we're all, we all don't want to make a wrong move, and we like taking risks, but not miscalculated risks. I think Andrew is a stalwart of these, but there's some people that just, the names are escaping me. No, I'd have to go with Tyler just because I think he brings something to the male leads that I haven't often seen as far as like a cool factor and everything else, where sometimes everybody's just trying to smile through the role.
Yeah. He just had a film come out this past week.
Yeah, Never Been Kissed. I think it was mixed reviews.
Yeah. What did you think of it if you've seen it yet? Because I personally loved it just because I saw it as a high school reunion mixed with a finding what you really want in life film, where the marketing.
That's an awesome risk that they took, and I think it paid off. But I think naturally the channel has some fans that expect us. They tune in to see what they've always seen. So it might be a more risk-averse fan base, which you have to please in one hand, while also sometimes leading them to new material. And I think this was a risk, but I think it was good for the network, even if it wasn't as favored by some of the fans. I think it was awesome execution. Hats off to the director, the writer, and the three actors. And I mean, I would love to do something like that, whereas I often do some of the more serious ones or issue-related movies, and sometimes it's fun to bite into a more broad comedy.
Speaking of your darker films, I have seen a couple of those, and I would really like to talk about one that I enjoyed called Dating a Psychopath.
Dating a Psychopath. They've retitled these movies, so you have to.
Shoot, I might got it wrong. It's Dating a Sociopath, but on Letterboxd it's called The Sweetheart.
Oh, The Sweetheart. Yeah. Okay. So that movie initially sold to Netflix. It did 2 years on Netflix, then it resold to Lifetime, and I think they named it that. The Sweetheart. The Sweetheart's the movie I tried to get Andrew Walker on, but schedules didn't align and everything else. I thought he would have been a great version as well, because he comes from these Hallmark movies. And so starting off like a Hallmark love story, turning into a psychopath. What is the question? That was, wow, you're going deep in the well. That was my second TV movie 28 movies ago.
So how did you find John Core? John Core is a guy who I never saw him as this character until this film, and he played it so well.
Yeah.
Was it harder for him to play this role than anything else he's done, or how did you get a hold of him?
John's a great guy. I haven't been able to work with him since, but he's awesome. He was a good time. We had a great time working together. I think it was before he had done the majority of his Hallmark movies and all his rom-coms. And so I think he was also just in that era of his career where they were auditioning for stuff and starting to get leading roles. And he had wanted to be an action star, and he wants to. If you look at his Instagram, his training, he trained martial arts, he trains acrobatics, and obviously his role on The Flash. Yeah, no, he's a machine. In fact, when we had that scene in the hot tub, we had flipped it from a day before, and he's like, you got to warn me about this, man, so I can like make sure the body's in shape. And then he takes his top off, and the guy's a Adonis sculpture. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do you mean warn you? You are born ready with these 8 abs. So I was like, you're embarrassing the rest of us. But you know, he recognized that was a piece of the movie and a part of the character as a personal trainer. He wanted to make sure that he could portray it as honestly as he could. But he's great. He wanted to experiment. He wanted to explore. He liked going dark. Funny side story on that movie. The house that he uses as his flop house that the girls break into was my first house with my buddy. we hadn't moved in yet. It was empty. We said throw a mattress on the floor. We built in the second door that the girls break through. And we used that house in 2 other movies, a thriller and then a rom-com, Midnight to Magnolia. And the other thriller was about a girl trapped in a basement. And we had somebody come to the door like 3 years later saying, I know there's a girl in the basement here. I'm like, what are you talking about? My roommate answered the door. And he's like, what are you talking about? He goes, I saw it in the movie. He goes, oh, no, we make movies here. There's nobody in the basement, because I know she's in the basement. And then we realized it's a little bit dangerous using a house that you live in.
Yeah.
So that was definitely interesting.
What about another one called Ice Road Killer?
Oh my God, that movie almost killed us all, the whole crew. It was minus 40 Celsius, side of a highway, shooting 5 nights, overnights outside. And we had to take breaks every half an hour to go inside and warm up. It was that bad. So on a closed off highway with an 18-wheeler and all these stunts and the big fight scene with the truck and the girls. And it was madness to make. Snowstorms and holy moly. We had some crew members say, you know what, I'm going to stick to the Christmas movies. They're a little easier after this, because that was physically daunting.
Yeah. So that was the hardest film you ever had to shoot, I'm guessing.
It was. I had one other one, Abducted on Prom Night, but that's just because I got really sick. Not with COVID. I got RSV, and I had a 102 fever while directing in like a snowsuit in the fall, like hiding behind the monitor because nobody else could step in. It was such a complicated sequence. It was the opening where the girl gets kidnapped and jumps out of the car and rolls out, and I had to be there. And I fought through 3 days of some of the sickest I've ever been. So yeah, I mean, listen, when you make 30 movies in Ottawa, you're bound to get sick on a couple of them.
Yeah. So we spoke about the lovely Natalie Hall.
And we did. One of my favorites.
What film has been your favorite to make with her? My personal favorite is probably Noel Next Door, just because I love Corey to death.
Oh my God, Corey's like, he's that, well, no, not, he wasn't sweet in that movie. He became sweet, but he's a sweetheart of a human. He's a director. He's an actor. I've heard of that guy's name since 2002 when he acted with one of my friends who was 18 at the time on a Lifetime movie with Elizabeth Berkley. And so I heard about him way back when I was just starting out as a 20-year-old. Wow, I got old. So my favorite movie is twofold. Midnight Magnolia. I thought that was the first time I worked with her, and she was awesome. Her and Evan just carried that movie. The banter, the enjoyment, the lightness, the fact that it wasn't a full Christmas movie. It was a New Year's Eve movie, so we got to do some things that we didn't have to do the gift wrapping scene. We didn't have to do a lot of the staples of these Christmas movies.
Mhm.
But we still had the decor and got to play with New Year's decor as opposed to Christmas decor. And it was just poppy and fun. It was the closest to a Never Been Kissed or movie like that, as opposed to just straight romance. And I love the idea of friends to lovers because the characters already know each other. So you can
Yeah.
get by the meet cute, you can get by the learning your storied past. You already know each other. So now we can just dive into fun and internal conflict.
Mhm.
Noel Next Door was fun for a different reason. I got to work with my favorite, well, not favorite, my longest collaborator, director of photography, Christian Beals, who he shot my first movie in 1999, my second in 03, my fourth in 04, and then my professional movies after that. So to be able to work with people you grew up with while working with Natalie again, while working with Corey again, is a real treat. So to have a top line like that, it just makes it fun to go to work. That
Mhm.
was a challenging movie in different ways. Obviously, wanted to make sure we portrayed his disability properly, fairly, and not offend while get the story across. Natalie had just had a baby, and so obviously we had to balance schedule and work-life balance.
Mhm.
Um, but she is like a joy to work with. She messages me and says, "I will basically do any Christmas movie with you. You make me look good."
She is probably, not gonna lie, completely honest here. She's probably one of my top Hallmark crushes.
Right? She's underutilized too. She should be doing the biggest ones. I think she balances like the humor timing with the humanity so well.
Mhm.
She has brought to life so many mini moments, like in the diner when she'd check on the other table and then casually look up and then see like she wasn't overselling the broad comedy well. And so no, I think she has a lovely approach. I've been lucky to work with some great women like her and Becky and Amber, even Katrina from Most Colorful. We're talking about seasoned actresses that know what they're doing.
What about, this has gone through 2 names. So, I know it as Falling for Look Lodge,
Okay.
but
Love It Look Large is what it was when we made it.
yeah. So they changed the name. How was that film? That is a fall film that actually feels fall-ish, as to where some of these, there's a pumpkin over there, so it's fall.
Yeah. We shot in the fall. I wrapped on October 30th, 3 years ago. So we shot it through October and we had an early winter coming in Ottawa. And so we went from like all the leaves to a crazy rainstorm that knocked everything off. So I moved the schedule around to make sure we got all our exterior scenes out. So we had some nice fall colors. We shot on a compound, a wedding compound. Um, it could have been an easier film to make, but the weather conspired against us. And then wedding season in the fall. So instead of like shooting all of our scenes in the barn, like for 2 or 3 days consecutively, from the dancing to the wedding to the finale, we had to go in and out of it. So you lose productivity moving time in and out of places,
Mhm.
which is what these movies thrive on, productivity. So I really enjoyed work. Clark Bacco is a legitimate movie star. She's doing non-Hallmark stuff, Amazon movies and everything else. And we knew it when she got there. I mean, uh, we're like that. She's going places, and
Yeah.
she's fun, witty, smart, and beautiful. And then Jonathan Keltz, that's where I met him, and I've done 3 movies with him now. This one, The Falling for Look Lodge. I did a thriller with him, which was with Natalie Hall, a
Mhm.
stalker prince, it was supposed to be a rom-com with the prince, and then it became a thriller. And then just this past October 27th, released Christmas by Design with Becky and him. I'm lucky to have worked with a few of the same actors 2 or 3 times. So you get a rapport. You don't have to break the ice. They land in town. You go for dinner. You discuss what works, what doesn't, what we can improve, what we can't improve. And then you get to work and you have a lot of laughs.
Mhm. Now, Christmas by Design, right?
Yeah.
This film, I have to say, this film was really, really enjoyable. This was a ton of fun, a ton of fun. How was Rebecca Dalton? She needs to be
Even
a
bigger, right?
bear.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. Becky's awesome. We're lucky to call her a friend now. She popped by my wedding because she was filming in Ottawa.
Mhm.
She's awesome. She's done sitcoms. She's got great comedic timing. She's obviously beautiful. Her husband's a bag of fun too, an ex race car driver, and We've gotten to know them a bit, and she just does broad comedy really well. And I think she hasn't been able to always show off her broad comedy in these movies. And I thought she got to do a little bit more physical comedy in this movie, specifically when she's in the diner and she sees her mom kissing the new dad, and then she turns around and sees her ex, and then eyes go wide and she runs off right into Jonathan's arms type thing by accident. So I know I do track some of the response because you want to know what works and doesn't work. And I understand there was some people who weren't as enthused by her cattiness with the family, but it's actually part of what attracted her and I to the role, that she had a bigger arc, that it wasn't just pleasantries with everybody. She was relentlessly pursuing a career, and that made her turn off to family and tradition after her father died. And then the coming home isn't just come home, everything's okay. It's come home, make it worse before you recognize what needs to be improved.
Yes.
And so I like stories that have a travel. I understand, again, viewers sometimes, there's a big note that we get from networks and from producers. They got to be likable. They got to be likable. I'm like, but do they have to be likable right away? I mean, we had plenty of likable people. Dee Dee was likable. The side characters, her parents, everything else were like, we knew where she was going to end up. I just think it's more fun to have a character arc that travels through some unlikability in order to learn. I mean, it's classic Scrooge, right? Scrooge was unlikable, and then he did the right thing in the end. But he routinely makes the wrong decision for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. And the final film that I would really love to talk about is one that this could have gone the wrong way.
Yeah.
If done wrong, the most colorful time of the year could have been done so disrespectfully. But you did it in a way where it taught people what this was all about. And you got to work with two phenomenal stars and I like to call Mr. Christopher Russell a man among anybody else, because he's so stupidly good looking that it makes me feel bad.
It's offensive. And not only that, he's like 6'3". He like the most alpha males on my set said they felt weak next to him. Yeah. No, he's a specimen, right? And he's a great guy. He comes off initially more reserved than some other actors that are always more extroverted and outward, but then he lets you in with a smirk or a laugh. And I like to take it as a compliment that on the way out, he's like, I'd come back to Ottawa to do a thriller with Max McGuire. And so, and so did Katrina, which was a real compliment. And I credit them both with humanizing the roles, because I agree. It was tough content, and it was also tough because we shot the movie in the summer, and you couldn't use the summer, whereas I would have loved to have done that reveal with the glasses and the ornamental gardens, and then like been wowed by the color. But you go outside in the winter and it's gray, drab, white, and black, which is ironic because that's how he would have seen in grayscale, not white and black or black and white. But it was tough to shoot, just based on location, school, interior school, small exterior scenes where we can do a little bit of snow in the front, and then houses really, and then office. And so it's really tough to make, but they made the characters human. There's always stuff I might change in hindsight. I think there was a requirement from network or production to do that black and white shot, whereas I might have left that out personally, because when you look at how people see colorblind, it's very rare that people do see in black and white. They often see in grayscale or color scale. But if you want to go to facts, there is 1% that do see like that. So they weren't wrong. It just wasn't representative necessarily of the whole colorblind diaspora. And, it was a choice that was above my pay grade. And so I'm not passing the buck. I could have fought harder against it, but at the end of the day, they wanted the wider arc to go from oh no to oh my. And so I'm lucky I get to make some movies that deal with representation and illness. It's a privilege to do stuff that's different than just fluff. And then to have actors that care enough to, make it as realistic as possible. Chris was more worried that he didn't look like a grade school teacher. I'm like, we pop a blazer and a sweater on you, buddy, and throw some glasses on you, and you can teach me.
he could do anything, and
Yeah.
everyone would be like, I am there, day one, second one. Where do I pay my money?
Yeah, I think so too. You know, guys
But
want to be him and girls want to be with him.
yeah, he is one of those guys where I first saw him and I'm like, I want to be him.
Yeah, there you go. You see, I wouldn't reject I wouldn't reject the option if it crossed my plate,
Yeah,
at least for
exactly.
a day or two.
So you do have one more film
Coming
coming
out
out
this
very,
year,
very
yeah,
soon.
I do.
So we know Tia and her sister from her famous show, Sister Sister.
Absolutely, that was my
Were you a
era. I think that's too young for you. I'm
Hmm?
old.
I remember watching it on the Disney Channel, but then my family watched it, but they weren't as big of fans just because it wasn't their age group.
Yeah, it wasn't of their time and everything else.
Yeah. So, were you a fan of her, and how was
Yeah.
it to work with her? And were you more starstruck than anybody else with her, since you grew up with her as an actress?
You know, the apprehension always comes before you meet. You're not sure how they're going to be, where they are mentally. Is it just a gig? But no, she's an executive producer on the movie too. And so I met her before we started filming. I got to let her know I was a fan. I knew the show, sister, sister. I knew the jingle, and Tia and Tamara, and I could, get that out of the way, have a couple laughs, and then get down to business. And then as soon as you start talking about a project as peers, that all disappears. But what shines through with her is that hundreds of episodes of TV experience where
Mm-hmm.
she can turn it on when the camera's running, know her angles, know her way, know everything else, and deliver.
Mm-hmm.
Despite what's happening in the world. And so no, it's nice to, she's a real pro, and she had a great laugh. She enjoyed laughing out loud at me on set. She goes, I've never seen a director wear more hats, because as my team in Ottawa knows, I will move carpets, I will move furniture, I will move lights, I will move everything if it buys me 5 more minutes to get one more angle.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, you're a hurricane. And I take it as a compliment, because I just want to make them look as good as they can. If that means getting another shot or getting slightly better lighting, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about Yes Chef Christmas. As a Hallmark fan or the genre fan, I love a cooking film. And
Yeah, there's a
it
lot of cooking in this movie.
and if I'm not mistaken, this is your first film that has to do with a chef. So how
Yes.
is this different than anything else you've done? And was Tia actually the one doing the cooking, or was it a double?
99.9 Tia. For the sake of time, sometimes we had some hands or tongs flipping a scallop that wasn't her, but she did it all for the takes. We just did some inserts without her.
Okay.
And so no, she does cooking. She had a cooking show, web series and a show. She's a big fan of cooking, which is why she developed the show with Lifetime. It was a very big challenge, because we do it in the same amount of time, yet there's like 13 cooking scenes. And so if you don't understand movie making, for some people that might listen, it takes the same amount of time to shoot a 2-page scene of people talking can take you 2 hours, depending on the blocking and the lighting. Throw in cooking, and you have to have talking before the cooking, and then while they're cooking and after, you really got to shoot. It's like you're shooting the scene 3 times. It could take you 6 hours, and then you got to do it in 3 or 4. So you speed up the talking before and the talking after, so that you can get the inserts and the cooking, and then present the plate and talk about how great it is when that's probably been cooked for an hour, and you got to take a bite of something cold and hopefully not bad. And so, and it's not like cooking shows where they have an industrial kitchen just offset, and our guys are just stirring the stuff and then present you with a perfect dish. And so it was a real challenge to keep the food looking fresh and edible and safe, because people had to eat the food as well in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was absolutely challenging. I talked to the network. I identified it early. I said, hey, if we want to preserve the quality of the cooking, like there might be some quality knock on coverage and I want to get it all. I want it to be great lighting. I want it to be great performances. I want great angles, and I want great cooking. But the job is sometimes making choices of what takes priority in this minute. because they don't give you extra time if you don't make your day. And so we make these so fast. And of course, working with Buddy Velastro, the cake boss, going down to New Jersey to shoot a half day in his studio. I didn't know. I knew they were going to film us filming him for a segment of a show, but I didn't know we were going to be subjects. And so they mic'd me and had me walk around the cake boss's factory, go find him, do a little bit. So I've been told that we might even be on his show. So there'll be some cross promotion on his new food show.
That'll be very entertaining. So how was he? Because
he's a character in a great way.
And come on, we all love him.
Yeah.
And how was it to walk around everything there in his?
What an operation he has going down there! Like it's a warehouse of activity, from delivery to baking to offices, and he has his own studio, obviously, because he shot so many shows. And so we shot in his studio to make it look like his kitchen at home. But and he was funny because we had some phone calls in the movie, and then one of our actors is a trained actor, and the role was written with the Jersey accent, and then our auto actor off screen to Tia would be doing the lines, then we'd replay the scene for him and say, okay, you'll be doing these lines down here. And he was laughing at the accent the guy had, saying that's not a New Jersey accent. And then to us outsiders, we were like, yours is even thicker. He doesn't hear it. And he was so New Jersey. The guy was like born of Hoboken. And then he sent us to a couple of restaurants in Hoboken that were just awesome. Great taste, dropped his name. They gave us some appetizers and took care of us. And the privilege of working with the mayor of Hoboken.
So you have one film that we have spoke about called Lemonade Romance.
Yes.
Do you know when this is going to be coming out, or who has it? Because it hasn't premiered here in the States yet, and I've been very curious about this one.
None of us know why. I mean, it's a very cute movie with two movie stars. It's Becky and Corey and Ava. And it's fun. It was a little bit of a walk away from the standard structure of Hallmark. Again, there was some more stakes, and Becky not necessarily getting along with her mom and everything else, but it was really fun. I mean, we were faced with the proposition. We wrote this movie in like 3 weeks and then shot it in 3. So it was kind of a really fast turnaround from conception to screen. But I told my writer, I said, what do you think of when you think Lemonade Stands? And he, and I cut him off before he answered. I said, getting shut down by the city. And so it's about a lemonade stand that gets shut down, and then big power Lemonade Corp executive comes to save the day, only to run into her high school sweetheart that she ditched to go follow her career. What a setup. And so chaos ensues, laughs are had, hearts are filled. I don't know where it's going to end up in America. I was surprised it didn't land on Hallmark. Maybe if I ever get to working with them directly, I can ask them and look them in the eye. Maybe they just didn't like some of the choices we made. But I actually think the audience would really enjoy it. I think they were both great in it, and they enjoyed it, which is great, because I remember being having a barbecue with some friends in the backyard, and then we turned, because in Canada played in France, and played in some other countries already, and got decent reviews. So I mean, it just might have been that Hallmark had a full dance card and Lifetime wasn't buying rom-coms for summer, just Christmas. So it could have just been a business decision. Yeah. And then every year more movies get made and it gets lost in the mix.
So the Hallmark Channel does have a competitor in GAC Family.
Yes.
I know that some filmmakers are not very happy with them, but as a fan of the genre, I watch all the films. Yeah. I'm not like, I hate this channel.
Politics are irrelevant when you're watching content. If you just enjoy the content, and not only that, you're supporting careers. People are paying their bills, they're paying their rent, they're raising families off this. So I don't like the idea of anybody blacklisting anyone. I can disagree with some politics. I can disagree with some beliefs, but that's a personal choice. And so I don't know what the question is, but I can imagine you can ask me something coming.
Would you make a film with them if they ask you to do a film for them? And would you be mad if one of your films was sold to them?
Mad? No, not even disappointed. I'm indifferent. I'm an independent contractor. I know a lot of people who work with them don't have the same politics, and you don't have to have the same politics to work together. This is
No.
what movies should be about entertainment. If as filmmakers we want to get our worldview and everything, but sometimes our worldview isn't what the buyer's buying, and you have a choice at that point. Do you want to work or do you want to stay home? And if you want to stay home, that's your right too. I happen to like working, so to answer your question, I would do a movie with them if it was the right project on the right time, and the parameters were respectful. Now, if they came at me with anything that was offensively political on another side of my beliefs, I might say, listen, I'm just not the right guy to make this movie.
Yeah.
As for what they stand for, I have nothing against people liking their content. I mean, that's their right. And so
Yeah.
it's not like we're doing breaking glass ceilings elsewhere. We're just telling different stories with a bit more diversity. And then there's other channels that do other versions diversity the other way. And so representation across the board, politics aside, if a contemporary came to me and said, you want to make a movie? Absolutely, I'd make a movie.
Awesome.
I also don't follow the politics of the division as well. I understand what happened and how they divided and everything else. And, I hope they get more representative just from a personal point of view. Like, you can look around the street and you see diversity everywhere of belief, of color, of creed and sex. And movies should be representative of humanity. And hearkening back to a 50s version of America might not be the idealism of everybody. And I think we should recognize that, projecting a worldview is sometimes also negative. And so it would have to be the right project and the right people, but I think all people are great as long as they're not trying to hurt anybody.
Yeah. So going away from the romance talk,
Yes.
as well as a filmmaker, I'm guessing you're also a film fan.
Yeah, of course. But sometimes you get so busy making these that you don't get to see as much as you want. So I preface whatever you're asking me about whatever most recent movie.
So what is your favorite film of the year so far that you've seen? And what is one that you're looking forward to coming out for the remainder of the year?
That I've seen
Big
this
scale.
year. I just saw Martin Scorsese's new film, Flowers of Osage, Flower Moon.
Yep.
Thought it was beautiful, thought it was everything, but I had to tend to agree with some of the critics that said it was a bit long.
Yeah.
I happened to watch it at 8:30 at night, so it's a 3.5-hour movie. Once you see previews, that's a 4-hour drive. You could have driven across 2 states on a lazy boy after eating candy for an hour and a half, and then you're out of candy for the last 2 hours. And so it was tough that way, but also beautiful, important, impactful, and just stunningly constructed with amazing performances. Otherwise, movies that I've seen recently, I'd have to open up IMDb and see what I vote on. I haven't caught a lot of the content. The past year and a half, I did 7 movies last year. I've done 11 movies. So it's not that my viewership has gone down. It's that I have to watch my movies 5 times on the edit and while I'm making them. And so your evenings are just taken.
Yeah.
Series wise, my wife and I haven't been able to consume as much content as we've wanted. What do we? I just caught up on Billions just because I enjoy it. I love Paul Giamatti and
Paul Giamatti's awesome.
Catching up on Succession. I'm really looking forward to Alexander Payne's new movie, and I'm looking forward to watching David Fincher's Killer on Netflix next week. Listen, the masters are masters. I think a lot of the thrillers that Netflix is putting out nowadays are not a whole lot higher caliber than some of the ones we're doing for TV movies. They just have bigger stars and more time, bigger production value. Whereas I yearn for like those, even 10 years ago, the $30 and $40 million thrillers, Zodiac Killer and Prisoner and movies like that. And I feel like there's fewer of those being made as the theaters get clogged with the giant blockbusters or the broad comedy. And even the raunch comedy has taken a hit. I know Jennifer Lawrence just made one, and it was fun, but it didn't feel the same as 90s raunch comedies.
No.
And I had a couple laugh out loud moments, but also like a couple misses. And so I think it's just really hard to make movies. We've all made so many that it's hard to either invent a new approach And I think some people are reluctant to say, okay, maybe we've taken the execution as far as we can take it, but now we can like retread stories with new people and new versions. I don't want remakes, but I mean, not shying away from, we used to pound out rom-coms,
Yeah.
from Hitch to Ben Stiller movies to all this. And it was the stars that made them unique. It was Ben that made it unique. It was Jim Carrey that made it unique. It was Will Smith that made it unique.
Yep.
But the story structure wasn't all that unique.
No.
It was their bringing their full character to it. And so I'm waiting for the next crop of stand-up comedians that can translate over to movie stars and add their own twist to it.
So for the big films, are you a Marvel fan, or do you stray away from those and you're just a casual person?
I'm a casual Marvel fan. I don't know the universe inside out. I loved Black Panther. I love Simu Liu's movie. Can't remember the name.
Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I thought that was really awesome version of that movie. I thought it's so special to have that come out of Canada, like out of left field, take a guy off a Canadian TV series and pop him into a Marvel movie.
And he got loved.
Yeah, and I love what he's done to his career since, like parlaying the big movies while also, doing fun promotional stuff. I think he's really enjoying his life right now, and he deserves it. I think so. Listen, the first Iron Man was an eye opener for what these movies could do, and I think they've just taken off since then.
Yeah.
I think we were probably over inundated between that and the Disney Channel and having to follow too many universes and crossovers. And for the absolute diehard fan, I think it's great if that's what you like. I have more beef with the reality TV world that everybody seems to want to watch. That's what's taken more channels away from narrative drama. And that's what takes network hours away, whereas we get less of that. Therefore, we get less experience in it. Therefore, it's harder to climb the ladder into the top tier TV and film.
Yeah.
And so, but you know what? People want what they want. And if they see themselves more in those shows, we got to create a reason for them to tune out. We don't just deserve eyeballs. And so it's up to us to write our way out of a hole.
Two more things, and then I'm going to let you be on your way. And I hope to talk to you again when your next films come out.
Oh, fun. Thank you. No problem. Happy to.
Would you, or have you made a film with your wife?
She's been a secret cameo in most movies. Her mom takes a background actor role in every movie I do. She's been in a movie I did called, which one was it? Christmas Explorer.
Okay.
It was called Christmas Explorer, or Maps and Mistletoe is what it came out on Lifetime a couple of years ago.
Yes.
She was in the office scenes next to the star. She was the desk next to her, so she was in multiple office scenes. And also one of the background actors then is now an actor who stars in some of these, who's a local Connor. He's done some of these movies for Up TV, and I think he's translating some of the thrillers and co-starring in the thrillers. And so it's great to see, a background actor turn into a big actor in town. I saw his headshot 3 years ago with a local talent agent. I said, "Oh, that's a good-looking kid. Can he act?" They said, "Yeah." So, well, then he's going to do okay, and he has.
And do you have anything down the pipeline that you are either casting, writing, or anything that we don't know of coming out soon? That is
not coming out. I'm about to film a thriller at Niagara Falls.
Okay.
And so,
can you tell us a little bit about the cast?
No cast yet. They're submitting this week, and so I'll get tapes in the next week or two. And I think it won't. I think we'll be discovering people. I don't think we have the budget for all the established stars. I'd love to bring Natalie to town and have her throw somebody over the falls to save her own life, but not in the cards for this one. So it'll be fun to discover some Canadian Ontario talent and give them an opportunity to lead a movie.
Well, thank you so much, sir. And I cannot wait to watch Yes, Chef Christmas coming this November. I believe it's November 17th or 18th on
December
Lifetime.
10th. December 10th on Lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah.
December 10th on Lifetime at 8 p.m. with Tia Mowry. And who's her co-star?
Luke Humphreys.
Luke.
He was just in Sofia Coppola's movie, a small part in Priscilla.
Yeah.
And then obviously Buddy Valastro as well. And so now we got a heavy top line. She's got her whole family in the movie is amazing, like the cast family. And we had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun making that movie. And hopefully it's delicious.
Thank you so much. And I cannot wait to talk to you hopefully next year for a Lifetime film or a Hallmark film, whatever you do next. Would you come back on and talk more films with me?
Happy to talk shop, Noah. You're a great guy. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. And thank you guys for watching this. Check out My Christmas Guide whenever it is on the Hallmark channel or Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, whenever they air. It's a fantastic film. And watch all these films. I'm pretty sure you can rent or buy any of his films on Amazon Prime or on DVD. He does have one set that does have two of his films on DVD right now that I just bought with Noel Next Door and The Most Colorful Time of the Year in one set.
That's funny.
So buy that. It is very cheap on Amazon and support him. Hopefully you get something from it.
I get no residuals, so wait for the playback on TV. They're going to be playing Noel Next Door throughout this season. So catch it on Hallmark and on the on-demand.
Fantastic film. And hopefully you get to work with Natalie a lot more because, as we both know, we love her to death. And I think you will down the pipeline.
I know we will. We talk about it regularly. I'm going to text her and tell her afterwards that you're a big fan. So thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you. And,
take care, guys.
And hopefully after the strike is over, hopefully I can get her on here and speak to her because this strike has made it tough to do interviews.
I don't doubt it. I hope it's over soon.
I'm hoping so with the strike. We're close to a deal. The studios finally cut out that bullshit of the
yeah. No, we were both talking before. We hope humans get to keep playing humans.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, sir, and thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.
Take care. Have a great one, guys. Happy holidays.